Welcome to lesson 6. You've read the passage about Jesus washing the feet of the disciples, and hey, here we are doing it, really doing it. We do this ceremony sometimes as a kind of an expression of what we believe Jesus talking about leadership, that leaders are people who don't lord it over the guys that they're working with, but they're friends, that they care for them, they love them, they serve them, they really seek the best for them, just like Jesus did for the 12. And we don't often do it with people that are just walking through following Jesus and have been following him for just a few weeks. It's a bit heavy, it's a bit much. Jesus did it with guys that had been with him for 3 years and they kind of got onto the same wavelength as him. But in some very special circumstances, when we think we need to make a real statement about a situation where there's been a lot of bad relationships and unforgiveness, and we need to say, this is what it means to be a follower of Jesus. Sometimes we actually do the ceremony. It's something for you to think about, but we just want you to open your heart and catch the Spirit of Jesus in this. So here we are. We're doing it. We're saying that we want to love each other. We want to accept each other in spite of our differences. We want to forgive each other when we get irritated with each other. We want to do this forgiveness thing really well. We want to care for each other in really practical ways.
Almighty God, the great I am, immovable rock, omnipotent, powerful, awesome Lord.
And so how was that? Reading the passage and then doing the foot washing together, what was particularly meaningful to you about it? What about you, Jane?
I feel like it's a way of showing our commitment to each other. We're all different. We're all called to do life together. And by washing each other's feet, it shows we're committed to each other's success. And because we have Jesus in us, we can do it. Yeah, great. Jesus in us is a big deal. Good. So how about you?
Well, for me, this act really spoke to me about the importance of being humble and serving other people first. So when you have relationships with people, you put them before yourself and you wash their feet.
Awesome. That's a pretty big lesson. Great. So what about you, Julie? What was meaningful to you doing the ceremony?
I think you couldn't do this if you haven't forgiven each other.
Yeah. That's true, and I think that's really important part of the whole lesson, really, that Jesus is not just talking about kind of lovey-dovey stuff, but he's talking about really dealing with issues. And I think when we get involved with other believers, other followers of Jesus, there's definitely going to be stuff that comes up. We're going to have to process it. We're going to have to get involved with communities where there are people that really we don't like particularly, and he challenges us to really build a relationship with them, forgive them if we need to. And I think that's something you're going to deal with. You know, you're going to be in a community of followers, and there's going to be stuff that you don't like, and that you even a bit critical of. And that's a point where you have to say, Jesus, what do you want to deal with in my heart about that? You know, and a lot of people run from those situations. I remember being in a group which I was on the edge and being critical, and someone challenged me, why don't you stop being critical and get involved? And I did, and was just massively changed through that. And that's something we're all going to have to work through. You know, a lot of people that say they're following Jesus but they're isolated because they haven't dealt with that stuff. So I think that's great. That's cool. What was it like for you? Did you feel a bit embarrassed having your feet washed, a bit ticklish?
Yeah, no, I felt good.
What was meaningful to you about the whole thing?
I think in this passage, Jesus is showing us a new model of leadership. Yeah. And I think he's turning it upside down to what we might see in the world with power and leadership having control, and Jesus saying, no, I want to be the other way around. It's about serving, it's about being humble, it's about loving each other.
Well, that's a great insight, and you guys are going to be leaders. You mightn't have been following Jesus very long now, but hey, you're going to be leaders, and if you can remember that and really do leadership the way Jesus did it, then hey, we'll change the world.
That's right.
Almighty God.
So I want to ask my friend Julian from the UK just to share a story that's really meaningful in this context.
I've got a story I'd like to tell you that's really close to my heart. It's about my father. He was an escaped prisoner of war, and he hid in a small village outside Rome called Monticello. When he was in that village, he became friends with a small 8-year-old boy, and this boy had a withered arm. When my father used to go through the village, he did something really wonderful. He held that boy's hand and walked through the village with him. They became friends, and this boy used to act as his lookout. So when my father had to hide, the boy would come and shout for him. My father would jump out of his bedroom window, go down the drain pipe and hide in the vineyards, and when the enemy had gone, the boy would come and find him and say, "It's all clear now, you can come out." 25 years later, and it was my father's wedding anniversary, and for the first time my father took my mother back to that village, and they arrived in the village and met all the people there. A crowd gathered round my father. It had been 25 years since they'd seen him, and there was lots of laughter and lots of joy. But through the crowd, my father spotted a young man. This man was maybe 35 years old, and there was something unusual about him. He had a withered arm. And as my father and that man met, instead of laughter there was tears. And this man said to my father, "I need to thank you because you changed my life." And my father was surprised and said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, before you came to my village, because of my disfigurement, because of my withered arm, I was bullied and rejected. I didn't have any friends. But you came to my village and you became my friend." He said, "You've changed my life because now I have so many friends. I'm accepted and loved in this place. And that's why I'm crying today."
This is a great picture of what Jesus has done for us, that he's come and walked with us in spite of our disfigurement and our withered arms and all the hang-ups and problems that we have. And it's an incredible inspiration for how he then wants to enable us to walk with other people who are different from us, who've got problems in their lives, to really love them and accept them and care for them, forgive them when they hurt us, and to really express the love of Jesus to them. And when people see that kind of love amongst us, they're going to know that Jesus is really alive.
When he ran to me, he took me in his arms, held my